Hi guys! So about a year ago I put up a video on how to save money and live on a budget, and you guys seem to really like it, so today I thought I would do a travel version of it and film a video on how to travel on a budget because that's what I've been doing recently. I have 7 different topics I would like to cover, so I'll just start with the video, and the first topic is where to travel. Now obviously long haul flights will always be more expensive, so if you live in Europe, chances are the cheapest destinations for you to travel will be other European countries, but some countries are more expensive than the others, so if you don't want to spend a lot of money at the actual destination, you will probably have to avoid the Scandinavian countries and Western Europe, I guess, because that's where the prices of accommodation and food and all the jazz are higher than the prices in, let's say, Eastern or Southern Europe. But if you, let's say, want to travel out of Europe, you can still do it on quite a low budget if you go to the countries where the living standard is lower than in your own country. So if you come from Europe, some cheap options for you would be maybe Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia. These are all the countries that are considered fairly cheap for us Europeans. And some countries in Central America are also good options, and so on and so forth. You just need to do a little bit of research. Let's move on to the next topic, which is when to travel. The best time to travel is obviously in low season. Low season can differ from country to country because it depends on the weather and just important events that take place. In Europe, for example, low season is in like September, October, November, and then February, March and April, and high season is during the summer holidays and around Christmas time. That's usually the standard in travel, but there's another thing you need to consider. Some countries, for example countries in Asia, will have wet and dry seasons. Wet seasons are basically when it's raining very often, so make sure to research that, because yes, prices will be much lower then, but obviously if you don't want to deal with all the rain, it is usually just better to pay a little more and enjoy your holiday rather than save a couple of $100 and be miserable because it's raining all the time. So that's something to definitely consider, but with most destinations, low seasons are the way to go. In Europe, I feel like September, October, March are perfect for like city breaks. The weather is still nice, it's not too cold. In September time, you can still go to, I don't know, like Southern Europe, to Greece. It will be still nice and warm enough for you to go on a beach holiday. The same goes for skiing. You don't have to go skiing during the Christmas time or in January where the prices are the highest and everyone does it. You can actually go skiing in April or May, believe it or not. That's what my family does every single year. We go to France. It is much cheaper, but we still get all the perks because the ski resort is so high up. There's still shitloads of snow. It's just the best, and there's also less people on the slopes, which is always good. But yeah, if you can, don't travel in high season because that's when most people travel and the demand is very high, so obviously the prices are high as well. But in low season, when the demand is low, a lot of hotels and even airlines will drop the prices, so it's a lot more affordable. Okay, moving on to flights. If you can, go for a low-cost budget airline. Yes, you won't get a meal on board and there are luggage restrictions, but the price will usually be much lower. For short flights around Europe, low-budget airlines are obviously a no-brainer. Having said that, if you are traveling during the high season, do check out the non-budget airlines just in case, because budget airlines really increase the prices of their tickets during the Christmas time. Ticket can basically cost the same as a ticket for a non-budget airline. And there's another thing that you need to consider. The price of a non-budget airline ticket usually already includes your luggage, whereas with non-budget airlines you have to buy it additionally. Sometimes when you add the price for the luggage, the ticket actually can turn out to be more expensive than the ticket for a non-budget airline. Speaking of luggage, if you are traveling with a low-cost airline, try to travel with hand luggage only, because normally they wouldn't charge you extra for just hand luggage, or they will charge a lower amount that they would if you took your, regular luggage with you. Every airline has a different rate for luggage, so definitely check that before you start buying the tickets, and calculate the price for the baggage into the price of the ticket, and make comparisons between the airlines. So yeah, if you can travel with hand luggage only, you just need to be a little bit more smart about packing, and you can't be shopping too much at your destination if you don't have enough room in your luggage. But I guess that's also a good thing when you're traveling on a budget, because you don't go overboard with shopping. If you travel on a budget, it's always great to be flexible with dates that you travel on. Really, from my experience, the cheapest flights are in the middle of the week, so either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I already mentioned the low and high season, so I'm not gonna talk about that again. And one thing to consider is definitely to buy in advance as soon as possible, or about 3 or 2 months in advance, because after that time, the closer you're getting to the date of departure, the higher the price will be, so it's best to not wait until very last minute. To find the best deals on flights, I recommend you to use a flight comparison websites like Skyscanner. That's where I normally start, but then I still go check out the airline websites directly, because sometimes you can find an even better deal over there. And another thing I would recommend you to do is to search for them incognito. So in your browser, open up the incognito window and just use that when you're searching for flights, because Google knows everything and you find a really good deal, and then when you actually want to book tickets a few hours later, when you go to that website again, the price will be much higher, because that's just how the internet works. Another thing I would recommend you to do is to sign up to the newsletters of all the airlines that you usually travel with, because they do sometimes do 24-hour long or 48-hour long flash sales. They'll offer 20% off on certain or all flights, so if you don't want to miss that, it's usually great to just sign up to their newsletter, even though I know they are annoying, but sometimes you can score a really good deal, so I guess it's worth it. And then especially for longer flights, there's one more thing to consider. You can do a stopover, which basically means that your flight won't be direct. So let's say if you want to go from London to Sydney, now obviously because the distance is so big, you will probably have a stopover anyway. But if you have a direct flight, the stopover will be just technical, and you'll pretty much go off the plane and go back to the plane half an hour later after they clean it up and stuff. So that's still a direct flight. But if you, let's say, take a non-direct flight and have a stopover in Dubai, you will then fly from London to Dubai, and then you'll spend, I don't know how many hours in Dubai, 4, 8. You'll have to then change flights to go to your final destinations. Like I said, they are usually cheaper, but I guess it's up to you if you want to spend a certain amount of time at the airport and save a couple of bucks, or if you would prefer to save on time and go to the location directly. Sometimes another thing that can be cheaper is to get 2 single tickets instead of a return one. Traveling with one airline only, it's usually cheaper to get a return one, but sometimes if you travel with different airlines, you can find 2 separate single tickets, and that works out cheaper. Getting 2 single tickets is especially handy if you, let's say, go to California, and if you travel from London to LA but also want to go check out San Francisco, you can then fly back from San Francisco to London, and you don't need to drive back from San Francisco to LA to catch your flight. Yeah, that's that. And then one last thing when it comes to flights, if you are a frequent traveler, don't forget to sign up for air miles or join this thing called Fly Club, especially when it comes to non-budget airlines. If you travel a lot, they'll give you discounts and free upgrades, and even with some budget airlines, they actually do that. 2 years ago, I actually signed up to Wizz Air Club thingy. I paid a fee to join for 1 year, and during that year, whenever I traveled with Wizz Air, I would get discounts on all of my flights and my luggage and things like that. So if you are traveling more than a couple of times a year, I think it is worth it. Moving on to accommodation. The cheapest way to go about it is to obviously stay with a friend if you have one in the country you're traveling to or in the city you're traveling to. If not, then another free option is to go couch surfing, which is basically staying for free on a stranger's house. There's a website called couchsurfing.com. I've never done it before, but I've heard positive feedback from people who say that not only can you stay for free, but you also usually make friends with that person and pretty much have a local tour guide. So I guess that's fun. If you don't want to do that, then you obviously have hostels where you book a bed and not a room, so you are still staying with strangers, but you will all be travelers. If that is also not your thing, the cheapest option from staying at a hotel would be to book an Airbnb, which is usually someone's flat. Usually the person's flat you'll be staying at will be, you know, yours for the amount of time you want to stay there. The owner will be out of the flat and won't be living with you. Basically like a hotel room, but better in my opinion, because you usually also get a kitchen, which means that you can save money on food as well, because you can prepare your own food. By the way, if you aren't signed up to Airbnb yet, I'll have a link down below that you can use in the description box, and when you sign up, you get £25 of credit. And by the way, I'm not sponsored to say this or anything like that. This is just one of the perks that the Airbnb website offers. Second to last type of accommodation you can book is obviously a hotel. I personally like to use booking.com for booking hotels because it's just the most convenient tool. You can find a hotel that's suitable for your budget or find one in the area you want to stay at. And another reason why I like it is that you can sometimes find some deals on there. I have managed to score a 4-star hotel for the price of a 3-star one before in London. And when I went to Sydney for the New Year's, I managed to find quite an affordable hotel, even if most of them were like super expensive during that time of the year. So yeah, it's always good to check out the deals. And you see the reviews of other people who have already stayed there, so you kind of know if the hotel sucks. And then the last thing you can do if you're traveling for like longer periods of time is to work in exchange for accommodation. In some countries you can like work on a farm. Sometimes you can also find work in a hostel reception for like a couple of hours a day. So I guess pay off your accommodation. So yeah, that's definitely an option if you're traveling for longer periods of time and need to have money coming in, or just, you know, save even more on accommodation. Yeah, that's that as far as accommodation goes. I would just like to point out one more thing. Obviously, if you book hotels and Airbnbs, it is way cheaper if you travel with friends, because you obviously split the price and it ends up being cheaper per person. Moving on to the transport in the city that you're staying, or the transport to and from airports. Usually you'll have a whole bunch of options on offer, either trains, buses, taxis, Uber, and it's always good to compare the prices and figure out which one the cheapest is. Usually it's the bus, but if you're going to a country where the standard of living is low, taxis might actually be a super affordable option. So yeah, just do some research. Then when you're traveling around the city, the same rule obviously applies. In London, for example, buses are cheaper than the underground. Having said that, the network of buses is more difficult to understand, and the underground is just way more efficient. So I guess you just have to weigh the options. And if you are going to a big city, usually you can get transport cards that will include various different types of transportations. And usually those cards will get you cheaper fares compared to, you know, buying like single paper tickets. Now, attractions, the reason why we go somewhere. So obviously try to take advantage of as many free attractions as possible. See if there's any free museums at a destination you're heading. And then parks and botanical gardens are often free. And for other things, I guess you just need to get a little bit creative. Sometimes, you know, you don't have to pay a large admission fee to go to the highest building and check out the view of the city. Sometimes you can just walk up to the nearest hill and you get the most amazing view ever. So try to take advantage of the nature, I guess. But if you want to go up to the skyscraper, sometimes you can even find, let's say, a bar that's on the roof terrace and has amazing views, and you obviously don't need to pay anything to go up there, but you may have to pay for a drink, which can still be a lot cheaper than what the admission fee for, I don't know, the tallest building would be. And a lot of places actually do combo tickets, so you can go check out 3 attractions for the price of 2, for example. These combo tickets can usually be found at specific attractions or online, which is also usually the best place to book all these attractions, because if you book it online, the prices are usually a couple of pounds or whatever your currency is cheaper. And another option when it comes to big cities are city passes. You can buy them for either 24 hours, 48 hours, and you pretty much pay a certain amount for that card, and then you get a list of all the attractions that you can visit for free with that card. These cards usually include like the major attractions that you would go check out anyways. So sometimes you can save money because this pass will cost you, I don't know, maybe like 2 average admissions, but you can go check out as many museums as possible. Just make sure you do all the calculations beforehand, because if you are like a normal paced traveler, I guess, I assume you won't be checking out more than like 2 museums a day. Sometimes with these cards you have to check out at least 3 things to make it worth it, so definitely consider that. And now last but not least, food. Eating out is expensive, so try not to do it very often. It's best if you can prepare your own food, you know, if you have an Airbnb, for example, you have a kitchen and you can prepare every single meal if you want to. But if you don't have that option, at least pick up food from the grocery store for your breakfast. And for the snacks you'll be eating throughout the day, and then just get like one warm big meal at the end of the day at a restaurant, instead of like, you know, having 3 different meals out. It adds up, trust me. And when you're choosing a restaurant, go for where the locals eat. Not only does it taste better, but you'll experience the local cuisine, which I think is one of the most important parts of the whole experience of traveling, but it's also gonna save you money. If you eat at a restaurant that you can find all over the world, for example Pizza Hut, the price will usually be quite standard and like the same in every country. But if you eat at a local restaurant, and especially if you're visiting a country where the living standard is lower, the local restaurant will be much cheaper in comparison. And an even better option than a local restaurant is actually a market. Markets are always cheaper, even in expensive cities like London. The only thing that you need to be aware of when you're visiting markets in like third world countries is the hygiene, obviously, and how the food is prepared and all that jazz, because us Westerns aren't always used to the bacteria that you can find in other countries. So just be aware of that, and try to avoid everything that is prepared with fresh water if the water there is not drinkable. If you're going to Indonesia, for example, and you have food at the local market or in a local restaurant, stay away from fresh salads and go for, I don't know, fried rice instead. Trust me, catching a bug is the last thing that you need when you're traveling. But yeah, these were all of my tips for traveling on a budget. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!